Welcome back. You're listening to pixelprojectradio, a video game discussions and analysis podcast. My name is Rick. Hello, I am your host, and today we are talking about Under Night Inbirth, EXE:late bracket CL-R bracket. Got that? As always, I got to thank the patrons up top. The patrons are the folks that keep this train moving on the tracks. If you want to be like these fine folks, you can head over to patreon.com/pixelprojectradio. You can see what we've got on offer there, all of the goodies that you can get as a free member or a paid member, actually. But we can talk all about that stuff later and plug my show and my co-host's show. Today, I've got joining me, Raging Demon, that is his Christian name, from the Command List podcast, Command with a K, Command List podcast. How's it going, Demon? Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, fantastic, Rick. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's on my driver's license. Yeah.
You and I have actually talked about this game before, so when I figured that I wanted to do it on the show, I was like, I got to talk to Demon and see if he wants to join in. And speaking of that, if you're new to the show, first of all, welcome. We're glad that you're here. This is usually where I would say that Pixel Project Radio is a video game discussions podcast that focuses on analysis with a bent towards narrative. However, February, we're trying something a little different. We're doing Fighting Game February, something that I've never tried on the show before. I've never felt like I was very good at talking about fighting games, but I want to be better. So here we are. We're going to do a couple of fighting games this month. I've got some fighting game fans and experts to come and talk with me about them. And that's enough preamble, I think. So why don't we go ahead and get into today's topic of conversation. So what is Under Night? Under Night is a bit of a niche fighting game even in the fighting game community. So it's a bit strange that I chose to start February with this one. But as for what it is, and Demon, I would love to hear if I'm missing anything or if you have any supplemental information. Under Night is a modern age fighter. It's set in the modern age with heavy supernatural elements. It is an anime fighter. It's very anime in terms of its style. Super stylized. It's very fast-paced, like most anime fighters. Very low barrier to entry. It's very easy to pick up and go, we'll talk about that later with mechanics. But there's also a deceptively high skill ceiling with some really complex meta and deep pockets of knowledge if you want to pursue it.
Yeah, I'd totally agree with that. This game is not simple by any means. You can look at the command list, move list, and there's not a super huge amount of things to learn, but that's not true. It's definitely the easy to learn, hard to master, trope right here, or saying right here for sure. Mm-hmm. And I think you summed it up pretty well. The mechanics, particularly, the skill ceiling is pretty high.
Oh yeah. Watching the top level players, especially from Japan, it just gets insane. I always like to ask guests their personal histories with games. For me, this is super duper short. I just kind of learned of it from a random Evo, and I picked it up. And then shortly thereafter, you and I talked about it. That's my entire history with this game. What about you? When did you first learn about this and first play it?
Well, I learned about this after playing BlazBlue Cross Tag. So I was playing BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle when that came out. God, I think that was probably 2016 or something, or 27. I forget when that game came out, but it was around then. And then I went, well, what's this Under Night? Because it was a crossover game. I'm not sure if you've played it or not.
What, BlazBlue?
Cross Tag Battle.
Oh, Cross Tag Battle. No, I've heard of it, but I've never played it. I thought that was a BlazBlue thing.
It's a BlazBlue game, but it's a crossover game where it's got characters from Ruby, characters from Persona, and characters from Under Night Inbirth in it, as well as BlazBlue. So it's a really, really cool game. But that's how I got into Under Night, because I went and started exploring all the different universes that make up that game. So I was like, Under Night Inbirth, what's this? Because I wasn't across every single anime fighter. I played BlazBlue and Guilty Gear. But then I went and tried Under Night Inbirth, and I just loved it. It's a PS3 game originally, if I'm not arcade and PS3 game originally, and I just thought it was fantastic because yes, it is kind of like the others, but it's also quite distinct. There's a lot of things that make this game distinct, and I remember going online when I first picked it up and just getting absolutely destroyed because I was like, oh, this is just I can Street Fighter or King of Fighter. I can do all of those games.
Right.
This is just a 2D fighter. You know, I play Blaze Blue. Guilty Gear. I can handle this. Get in there and just. I think I won my first fight, but then I realized when I fought my second fight how that other person I fought in the first fight was just like me, basically.
Right.
And that second person was not. That second person was very high level and just crushed me.
That's something that Arc System Works does fantastically with their games. You can see this Grand Blue is the shining example of this, but even whether it's here, Melty Blood, Dragon Ball Z Fighters, they're very easy to pick up and play, and it's largely because of the combo system. But once you get into the thick of what makes this game tick underneath the surface, what keeps the gears moving, the high level play gets so insane. You had mentioned online. If you've heard of Under Night, the term that you might have heard coupled with it is that it's what's called a Discord fighter. Discord fighters are fighting games that, put simply, just don't have enough of a player base online for you to jump on and get fights. You know, Street Fighter will never have this problem. You can jump on to Street Fighter 6 and get matched up instantly. Grand Blue is another. But stuff like this, for a while, Virtua Fighter 5 until it was remade, Melty Blood is another example. They're Discord fighters. So if you're hoping to get into this and you want to jump online, maybe not the best option, and doubly so because I don't think this game has rollback netcode yet either.
No, I know the second one does, but you jump into a Discord server of people who like Under Night Inbirth to get a match against. You're going to be getting only people who are really into the game, and that's part of the problem with what can be off-putting for people. I mean, if you stick with it, you'll get better, obviously, but yeah, it's definitely like that. I remember waiting a very long time to get a match. And then, like I said, I got one match that I won very easily and the connection was really bad. And then I got a second match where I just got absolutely destroyed. But it was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And that's, again, not this game. This game is a good game. Like, it really is. I've done nothing but compliment it on my show. I mean, when I found out you liked this game, that's why I was like, I had to get you on to talk about it. It's a shame it's not less of a Discord fighter, if I'm being honest, and more casuals got into it.
That's a good one too. And it doesn't have, I don't know if anybody but like a very few amount of people like me care about this, but one of the reasons I haven't got into Melty Blood yet is because it is directly based off of a visual novel, Tsukihime, which is largely considered one of the best ever. Under Night doesn't have that. It's as far as I know, it's just its own thing. Does it have an anime? Am I wrong?
No, it's its own thing. I forget. I need to delve deep into how it was created in the first place. But yeah, it is its own thing, even though it does have like a visual novel type mode.
Yes,
which didn't help me out that much, if I'm being honest. The story is kind of Blaze Blue, hold my beer. Let's make this. It's I guess what they don't tell you in this game and just assume that you know, which is pretty funny sometimes. But yeah.
Let's actually, let's put a pin in that for just a moment. Community forum, we don't have any, which did not surprise me at all. Community forum, if you're new, is where our Discord members can put their thoughts on a game that we're talking about or a topic that we're talking about and have them read on air. Predictably, there were none for Under Night. I don't think anybody's surprised there. I wanted to say this up top as well. In the show notes, in the episode description, I'm going to put a few links that are very helpful, not just for this game, but for the fighting game community as a whole. The two channels that I'm going to plug are Rufelmonger and a YouTuber called Nihongo Gamer. Rufelmonger doesn't have something specifically for Under Night 1, but or at least I don't think so, but he makes a ton of beginner guide videos. My understanding is he's pretty well beloved. All I know is that he is an expert at getting beginners into fighting games, which alone is worth its weight in gold. The Nihongo Gamer video is actually pretty cool. He is Nihongo, obviously Japanese. He speaks Japanese, so he translates a top Under Night player named Kyo. He translates a beginner's guide from him into English on this video, and it's very, very helpful. I'm going to have both of those in the episode description. You want to check it out if you want to get more into this game, and it'll be great. But now let's pull that pin out and let's talk story a little bit, Demon. So I understand that you're prepared to summarize this whole story. Is that right?
So I can do my best, but I've played the sequel, multiple times, beat the story with multiple characters. There's a visual novel that I found tough to get through.
Yeah.
But I've watched countless summaries on YouTube about it as well. Basically, it's the Hollow Knight is this thing that happens in this universe with all these characters, right? And it's a supernatural event that makes the city go all dark and all these monsters come out, and they're called voids. So they're just beings that are not human and not nice, right?
Yeah.
And Inbirth is someone who survives an encounter with a void and gets superpowers, right? So like your protagonist Hyde.
Yeah, kind of like a vampire. They get bit, and if they can, quote, maintain their sanity, then they become an Inbirth. They get that power.
Yes, correct. And then there's this EXS, which is like their power source. That's like the Force, I guess. If you want to, it's like a MacGuffin.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, so, and then you have rebirths, which are really powerful Inbirths. So the Hilda, the boss, she's a rebirth. And then in the next one is Kuyo or whatever, he's a rebirth. So we're just talking the first game. Most of the characters, not all, I was going to say all of the characters are Inbirths. But I'd say Macabre is like he's a void that's sort of gained a little bit of consciousness.
Yeah.
And I would say, and obviously the guest characters, Akatsuki and Eltnum are not Inbirths. They have different powers.
Yeah, aren't they from Melty Blood?
Eltnum is from Melty Blood and Akatsuki's from some comic. This is some real obscure Japanese stuff. Even a lot of people who are into it in the West even know Akatsuki Blitzkampf, the comic. I had to look this up because he's my favorite character. But like, I was just like, where is this guy from? He's from a different. He's a guest character from a different dimension. It's like a World War II inspired alternate history type comic book, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think as far as story goes, I don't think we're going to get much more in depth than that. Just to give listeners an idea, I'm pretty sure there are a total of 22 characters in this game. Each character has not just an arcade mode that has story content, but also appears in the visual novel portion of this game. All 22 characters, and each character will have usually between 3 to 4 chapters of story. So it's quite long. And if you've ever played the older Mortal Kombats, like 2 through 4, the story of Under Night is similar insofar as it kind of does whatever it wants. It's not quite that bad, but it is sort of between that and the more cohesive stories of 9 up until like Mortal Kombat 1. So we could do a beat by beat, but it'd get a little all over the place and isn't really conducive to what Under Night is trying to do anyway. And also not why anyone plays this game, to be honest. Anyways, one reason that I wasn't sure if this was based on an outside like comic or manga or anime or something, Demon, is because the way that they introduce concepts in this game, the way that the game speaks to you, the player, the reader, is not at all dissimilar from like Dragon Ball or Grand Blue. You know, Grand Blue is a gacha game outside of the extremely popular fighting game series. So like when characters are introduced, you're expected to just know them. And of course, everybody has seen this with Dragon Ball, right? You pick up Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 on the PS2 as a kid, you're just kind of expected to know stuff about Cell and Majin Buu and stuff. And it's just expected. They kind of do that here. Like, I kid you not.
Yes.
Within the first 10 minutes, I had 2 or 3 different characters bring up a concept from the game, like the Hollow Knight or EXS, and they're just like, what is it? Well, I don't really know. Nobody really knows. And it's like, what is happening here, man? So that's why I was like, maybe I'm just missing something. Maybe this is based on something that I just have no knowledge of, and Demon probably does.
Nope. I am no more up to speed than you. I think it's kind of funny, though. Like, I kind of respect it a little bit. To a lesser extent, it reminds me of games a bit like Control. You know, when you go and you're like, have no idea what's happening, and half the fun is like becoming less confused. So,
sure.
Yeah, so no, I'm not any more up to speed with the lore than yourself. I've just done the stuff in the game, and that's it. And like I said, I watched summary videos on it, and even that was sort of like just got me a sort of a better grasp of what was going on, but it didn't really elaborate too much. Not the way
Yeah.
Blaze Blue does, right? Because there's lots of stuff with Blaze, like you mentioned, comic books and anime, other media. There is no other media for this that I'm aware. There might be some graphic novels or something somewhere, but it's an original property, and I believe it's Toshimichi Mori was involved in this and Blaze Blue, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't really have any more insight than yourself. I think it is kind of funny how they just do that. They're like, oh, what's happening?
Yeah.
we have no idea. So
it is presented, like you said, in a visual novel format, which is another genre we haven't covered on the show. I don't know that we ever will. I like visual novels, but it's just different. It was a little tough to get through. I don't think it's particularly well written. I can't even say that in confidence, though. It might be just a localization thing. It's not particularly enjoyable to read, I would say, at least not for me. And that combined with the fact of how they're trying to introduce you to a lot of this in-game universe stuff, like the Voids, like the Inbirths, like Ori from Lichtkreis being an entire organization just full of women that are kind of undercover for the first time in Japan, or at least that's where Ori starts out. The way the writing and the delivery of the information, they're just kind of at odds with each other, and it makes it kind of a jarring experience. That being said, it is there for you, and you're not going to lose any enjoyment out of this game, on the other hand, if you don't engage with it. In fact, I would go so far as to say that the vast majority of this player base is not in it at all for the story. It's because it is a visually exciting and mechanically stimulating fighting game. It's just plain fun.
it looks fantastic. It plays fantastic. The music's awesome. It's just the game itself that attracts almost everyone who plays it, like you said. I mean, it tried to sort of like, Street Fighter, it was all gameplay.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 2 comes out, you know very little about the characters. They'll list a few interests, their blood type, because that's a big thing over in Japan, and then their heights, birthdays, stuff like that. They give you almost nothing. This game does the complete opposite. Well, it still gives you nothing in terms of why is everything happening, but it gives you a lot of character development straight away, a lot of relationships between the characters straight away. And you don't have to care about it because the game is amazing.
You had mentioned voice acting. This is a confession, and I don't know if you read visual novels at all, Demon. This might be controversial. When I'm reading a visual novel, almost 100% of the time, I turn the voice volume all the way down. I just don't want to hear it. Like I want to keep the voices in my head to know how they sound.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've got to do a lot of heavy reading, or you just want your own sort of your brain to do the rest, right? Which is what it sounds like. You want to let your head fill it in. Yeah, I get that. I like the English voice acting from Blaze Blue Cross Tag, but when you get this, you'll get it almost exclusively in Japanese. But yeah, for me, when they're speaking Japanese, I'm only reading anyway because I tune out because I can't understand barely any of it. So
Right.
Yeah. But what is often I find the Japanese voices don't really match my idea of the character.
Oh, sure.
I find a lot of, especially the female voices, I find they're often not a lot of variety.
Okay.
So in the pitch and the sound and stuff like that. And so for me, I find you see the Japanese when they make these games and they have an audio in Japanese and an audio in English. They understand the difference between the two cultures and sound of the languages very well. And you can see how they pick the voice actors usually I'd say pretty well, but they're also extremely different in how they sound. So that's why I feel like you get people who will play a game with Japanese audio or a movie, they'll watch an anime with Japanese audio, and then when they will try to watch the English one, they're like, it's jarring.
Right.
Yeah, I can totally understand why you might go, nah, I'm going to put it on mute.
Let's go into some development talk, some quick facts and figures. First released, this was in September 2012. This was an arcade game originally, important to note, developed by French Bread and Ecole Software, published by Sega and, of course, Arc System Works. Created by Nobuya Narita and Toshimichi Mori. Composer, Masaru Kuba, a.k.a. Raito.
That's Raito's name, because I've heard of Raito. but I didn't know it was sort of like a Banksy deal, wasn't it?
He's got a whole website.
Yeah.
He also composed for Melty Blood. He did all of the composing for all of the various Undernight Inbirth games. There are a lot of ports and re-releases. And in fact, this game wins, if you ask me, at the most anime game title ever awards. The what the fuck is that game titles. Here are the versions. You've got Undernight Inbirth. That was first. Then you've got Undernight Inbirth EXE : late. Okay, that's number 2. Undernight Inbirth EXE : late brackets ST. Well, I don't know what that is. And then the game that you and I played for this episode, Undernight Inbirth EXE : late more brackets CL-R.
And I have no idea how to pronounce or how they want it read or whatever. It's got the most anime name ever. Like you said, it's hilarious. I look at that and go, why? Everyone in marketing would have been like, don't do this, right? Undernight Inbirth, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
I think even the folks that are into this series just call it Uni and Uni 2. Like, unless you're really
correct.
getting into the weeds about like which track came from which port, or like any kind of like patch notes, because each of those ports do, admittedly, they are different. Like they added different characters, they tweaked some stuff, new soundtrack. The new soundtrack was the biggest one. When I was going through listening to this on YouTube, the playlists are huge because each port, each new iteration just has a different soundtrack. And they're all, like, to be fair, they're all bangers. It's all really, really good.
Too bad if you move on to a new version and it's not as good as the one I mean, they're all good, like you said, but it's just not your favorite, you know? But, and then you have to listen to a whole almost completely different soundtrack. Going back to the name, I think the pronunciation for is you say EX late clear and EX latest, I think is how they were saying them. And they're like, the fans are saying them so you can make the distinction. But even Undernight Inbirth 2 still has a really long title for no reason. They could have just called it Undernight Inbirth 2, but they didn't.
I'm sure the reason is hidden in the lore somewhere.
Or it's just like almost an inside joke.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of the creators and their decisions, their website, they have a website and a wiki page dedicated to this, obviously, and they do a lot of Q&A on there where fan questions get posted, like fan questions that were written in or posted somewhere, somehow got to the devs and the creators. They're posted, and those same creators and the devs, they answer from the point of view of the characters themselves. So they're doing like a little bit of clever in-game roleplay. Like one question that I took down that I was looking at, it came in, it said, question, what do you do if you bump into another Inbirth outside of the Hollow Knight? Probably just pretend you don't know them, right? And then they wrote in as like a character named Chaos. That's like, that's right. Pretending you don't know them is the optimal course of action. And then they write in they answer as Ori, who is like the protagonist shonen girl. And she's like, yes, that's right. Like to not betray like what she might actually know or betray that she's, kind of nervous about this whole thing. Ori will be your introduction if you're playing this in the story mode. And she's also just a very easy to use character, I think. It's very cool. Their online sources that they have on their website and on the wiki are really invaluable, especially for stuff like this, which it's funny you mentioned Hollow Knight, Demon. It's not dissimilar to Hollow Knight insofar as the lore is rich and the fans can get really passionate about it. And there's a lot of stuff there. It's a very interesting read if you're ever, in the mood to just dive into something, waiting for dinner or like trying to fall asleep. It's really cool stuff.
Yeah, and you might just become your new thing as well, because it either grabs you and you become kind of obsessed with it, or it doesn't. That's what this game sort of feels like. I mean, having said that, we're both kind of casual with the game, but the fans that like this game love this game. It's very much a cult type game. And it is worth, I found the characters super interesting. It's funny how you said that they're answering the voices of the character, because as you were saying that, I was thinking Gordo would say something like, "Oh no, you go have a drink with them, or you do this," you don't just ignore them. He's what I find funny about Gordo is the way he talks to the characters that aren't on his team, right? From the Lit Christ, he's not, or people who aren't part of his organization, he's still quite amicable, even though he has to fight them, right? So he's sort of like ambiguous at times about his allegiance, even though he's allied to Amnesia.
Whereabout does he come into the story? I don't think I ran into him.
No, I can't remember his role, but I play as him most of the time, and I played as him in BlazBlue Cross Tag as well. And it's clear he's not one of the good guys, but it's also clear he's not out and out bad either, because he was working with the other characters in BlazBlue Cross Tag quite well, and he's a bit of a smart ass, and he talks smack with people as well. But in the game, he's helping Hilda. In the visual novel, I don't remember where he comes in, but it's clear Hyde doesn't like him.
Right.
But I think it's also because he makes fun of him as well. So, and he's from Amnesia. Hilda's just trying to be more powerful,
Right.
Bosses try to be bosses be bossing. It's the M. Bison trope almost, I need to be in charge of everything. She's actually a pretty annoying boss too, but
yeah, her moveset is pretty wild as well. I would love to talk about some more characters once we get into the mechanics. I purposefully saved the mechanics for last just because they're so much more robust than I think everything here. But speaking of things that are robust within this game, you did mention that you've heard of Raito. So why don't we talk a little bit about the music here? Each and every release has different tunes on it. That is crazy. There's so much just in Under Night Inbirth 1. Raito has a website. Very proud of his work on Under Night and Melty Blood. Rightfully so. I mean, it's all really good stuff. He also did some, or at least in the West, lesser known stuff. But Under Night and Melty Blood are going to be at the top. Here's what he has to say about this soundtrack. He says, quote, Under Night Inbirth is a unique fighting game developed by French Bread, blending supernatural fantasy elements with light novel storytelling aesthetics. For this evolved fighting system that emphasizes strategic gameplay, I composed character themes that capture each fighter's unique personality. The soundtrack focuses on powerful melodies and dynamic energy, creating an immersive musical experience that complements the intense battles. I think powerful melodies and dynamic energy are like, as soon as I read that, I was like, yeah, man, you got it. Nailed it in one.
Yeah, exactly. If you contrast, say, Hyde's music to Macave's, Hyde's is that typical sort of punchy, rocky kind of like, I'm the hero of the story kind of vibe, right? And you get it immediately. Then you get Macava, and it's that desperation, that sort of like hopelessness, it gives you kind of anxiety, and that suits that character perfectly.
I found the same thing with Ori too, like you said with Hyde. As soon as you listen to her theme, you're like, oh yeah, that's her. Anime protagonist, a bit demure, but she's going to come into her own. That's totally her. The character themes are spot on. I will say some of them are a little less so. Like Mika is actually the character that I tend to play the most, and I don't really think her theme matches who she is at all, but it's a very cool theme. It's very, very good. I think she might be a joke character, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, and if she's also really funny in BlazBlue Cross Tag.
Oh really?
I mean, she's called Mika's the one with the giant fist, right?
Yeah.
She's calling everyone a pedo in that and stuff like that. I believe I'm remembering that correctly, because also there's a bit of a trope with that in one of the BlazBlue games as well. So it's clearly a very Japanese sense of humor with the young girl characters, right?
Yeah.
But she's definitely got a lot of it's that typical she looks small and helpless, but she's got that anger and that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And you would expect that to come out in the music as well. But yeah, she's a pretty funny character. She's like a Rushdown type character.
I think I like Rushdowns a bit. I'm a big Shoto guy, to be honest with you. This this soundtrack, I was listening to as much of it as I could. I don't think it says much if I just call it very anime, but it is very anime. There are several tracks you can just grab into the bag and pull out, and they could be anime theme songs. Like there's just tons of driving guitar, a lot of distorted guitar with lead line style of playing. Electric piano also plays a big part in this. That's a lot of the melodies. Those sort of verses and choruses that you don't get a lot in Western pop music. They just kind of tumble into each other. And notably, with a few exceptions, there's really not a lot of bass in this soundtrack. It's very guitar, drum, and piano, but you're not going to hear tons of bass guitar.
Yeah, Yuzuria, hers is very piano. Like, I don't know if you remember, because there's a lot of music to this game, so even for me, I'm thinking, which ones did I like? Which ones didn't I like? Which, what didn't I like? Not much. It was all really good, actually. But there's definitely some playfulness in the music as well. It's not all like either super hardcore, pump you up to save the world, or doom and gloom. There's very much a lot of but like you said, they don't go for like heavy bass. They go for the traditional sort of instruments, and even violin. There's lots of violin, like in the different tracks.
Oh yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I think you're right.
Yeah,
there is plenty of that too. I don't know if it's just because you hear it so much, but I'm a huge fan, at least in this iteration of Under Night 1, of the character select theme. That's just, it's really driving piano. It's like an energetic sort of piano that's still sort of mysterious, but in the background, you've just got this synthetic bass fucking slapping away, just going insane. I'm pretty sure it's a synthesizer, but still, it is crazy.
And they keep it for Under Night Inbirth 2 as well.
Oh, do they?
Yes, they do. And I like that. Sometimes I like it. It's a bit like, it's maybe they're going for the Street Fighter Alpha thing, when they keep the same character select theme.
Oh, okay.
And it just reminds you what you're doing. And I actually appreciated that. So, yeah, because I very much like the character select music.
Yeah, it's great.
There's no boring music in this game at all, really, is there?
I don't think so. I haven't heard any. Raito is very well beloved by fans. Just the other day I posted a track from Melty Blood into another Discord server, like a bigger one, and somebody almost immediately came in and was like, "Raito, my beloved." I was like, "Yeah, man, you get it. you get it." It's a lot of cool stuff. I will say, like, if I had to criticize anything, it would, I guess, maybe be that the soundtrack as a whole works better as a fighting game soundtrack than visual novel, which isn't really a fair comparison because this is a fighting game, but the visual novel makes up such a large part of the single player content that, it makes sense to just point it out. Visual novel music, I don't know. I haven't thought about this enough to like speak intelligently about it, but visual novel music all has this kind of sound to it. And I don't think Raito ever quite gets there, but at the same time, he does so much, like goes above and beyond with the fighting stuff that you don't even think about it until you're doing some dumb podcast like this.
It knows its role in the game, and that's really important. He stands out by basically the competence of the music. Because, sometimes a track will stand out because it's really good, but that's only because the others are not, or it overpowers the game and it's all you notice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because I think Guilty Gear, what it does is it's obviously themed around rock music, but that can be a bit over the top sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's sort of struck a really good compromise. Not that he's compromising on his quality. He's hit the right mood pretty much across the game, except the novel, obviously. But that's challenging to do music for visual novels and stuff like that, because you need something unobtrusive as well that you can listen to in a big loop that doesn't drive you nuts.
Yeah.
And because it's very repetitive. So when you think about, say, the dialogue in Blaze Blue, I don't know how many Blaze Blue games you've played. They use the same sound for every character interaction. The same background music. The only reason it works is because it's not the kind of music that will make you want to kill yourself, right? It's not like elevator music or anything, or hold music when you're on the phone. It's actually just it can be on in the background, and it can be very repetitive without feeling repetitive. It doesn't stand out so much that you notice it and go, I can't handle this anymore. I've got to turn it off.
Yeah.
But visual novel music is tough.
Totally. It is really tough too. I like to sprinkle it in anytime I can, like on this show, do some just random music. I like to throw it in now and then. And you are right though too. It is a tough balance to strike. Like I love the character select theme. I really do. But if I had to listen to that for 30 minutes while reading like story stuff, I would go insane. I would lay down on the highway. It's just too much. It's overstimulating.
Yes.
But at the same time, that's what Raito does so well. Like what did he say? Powerful melodies and dynamic energy. Yeah, you got it in one, man. Like he does that 11 out of 10. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you listen to it nonstop, you want to do something a little drastic.
Yeah, like the character select screen is one thing, because how long do you have to tolerate character select music? 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's that upbeat. Yeah, I want to start playing the game. You recognize the game through the character select music, but then it also gives you the urgency to pick your character. And you don't have to listen to it for more than 30 seconds. Whereas you've got a very different objective with other parts of the game. So even like training stage music, you have to be really careful. Like if you've got a stock training stage, and a lot of fighting games now, you can just pick whatever songs you like. There's jukeboxes and stuff like that. But you can't just have something that grates on your players' ears, right? And some games take a back seat with their music, like say Mortal Kombat, for example. Mortal Kombat doesn't have bad music, but it very much is. It takes a back seat to everything else. You ask someone to name Mortal Kombat music, they're going to struggle, even though they know the tunes. This game, I like straight away, I'm going, well, all the music's good. And then I have to really think about it. And then I go, oh, wait, yeah, I like this character's music. I like that character's music. And then the list gets bigger and bigger, and you realize, oh, I've just said what I said before I started thinking about it. All the music's good. You think you don't remember it all until you start to go through it in your mind. And then you go, oh, yeah, I like that. I like that. I was thinking about the chick from the Wagner, right? I was thinking, that epitomizes her, because she's got that very aristocratic, I'm better than you kind of vibe, right?
That arrogance, yeah.
And that arrogance and then you're like, well, her song with the classical instruments does more emphasis on the classical instruments does portray that,
Yeah, living up to her namesake of Wagner, absolutely.
Exactly, the composer, but yeah, of course, is probably the reason she was named like that.
Yeah, and I mean, she is kind of outfitted, kind of like vaguely like a Valkyrie, so you could make that connection for sure.
The opening just feels like you're about to watch an anime as well, and that's cool. I love that about all of these games, all these types of fighting games, like these anime fighters. BlazBlue's another great one. They do a fantastic intro, and Under Night Inbirth exactly the same. Yeah, it's like you say, you use the word, it's very anime, which just shows they understood the mission, right? They're leaning into the Japanese elements of it rather than trying to westernize it, which is good.
I 100% agree. And they keep that with the visual aesthetics too. We kind of talked all around those going through here, but it is what you would expect. I realized lately, Demon, I don't know how much anime you watch, but I don't watch a ton. I like what I do watch, but I'm not what you would call a super fan. I've been watching more lately, and I'm realizing that I know the styles of art that I like, but I don't know how to describe them. What I realized as I was going through the visual novel part of Undernight, though, is it's something in the eyes. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something in the eyes of Undernight's art versus whatever you're watching, Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, something that's not from last century, you name it. It's something there that I'm not crazy about here. But in terms of the actual setting, the supernatural elements, even the character wardrobes here, they all look absolutely fantastic. They don't lean into the high school uniforms, kind of visual novel Japanese anime kind of thing. Yeah. But it's also not totally fantasy either, with armor and shit like that. It's kind of a happy medium between both, maybe a little closer to the normal everyday life, because this is just kind of in Japan. Overall, it looks really nice, especially in fighting. The fighting stages do have a different sort of well, obviously animation style, but they have a different vividness in their presentation that's just not in the standard drawings and the visual novel side.
Yeah, well, I think the stages, it's almost like the Marvel versus Capcom 2, where the background's got some sort of 3D-ishness to it, if that makes sense. It's not standard hand-drawn sort of, it matches and it suits it, but it's a little bit more than just a nice hand-drawn background, if that makes sense. Not that this game is hand-drawn, I don't know if it is or not, but it's definitely going for that manga style. Except the backgrounds, they are vivid, even though everything's sort of dark because it's the Hollow Knight.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to explain. The lights, I guess, is how I'd explain it. It's a difficult. I'm not an expert on animation and that sort of thing myself. I can't really explain what I'm thinking of at the moment. Just like you look at, say, Dragon Ball, and then you look at this and you go, all right. It's an anime, it's a manga, or whatever it is, and you're like, but its art style, its look is different, and I don't know why. And you would say it's in the eyes. I would say maybe if I was to guess, the Dragon Ball Z sort of shape of the eyes is more of a half circle shape on the bottom, and this is more like angular. That's probably the only way I could explain the difference. It gives it a more serious look, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I see what you're getting at with the backgrounds as well. When you had mentioned that, like MVC2, but also the sort of everything being vivid, what I always think of are the older Street Fighter games or Pocket Fighter or things like that, where the backgrounds are kind of more subdued and you can really make out who your characters are. The characters are never getting lost in the background. They just look completely different. But like this is kind of like this has a lot in common in that visual sense with Mortal Kombat, or at least the newer Mortal Kombats, where it looks like your characters are just plucked out of the background. But where Mortal Kombat is a lot darker in aesthetic, this obviously isn't. I mean, it's darker, yes, like you said, it's because it's nighttime, but like it's anime, so everything is very vivid and bright. I think comic book, what you said, well, comic book, manga, either or, is a perfect way to describe the way this looks. It does look like what we would imagine in our head as children as we were reading like a comic book or a manga. That is what it looks like on screen. It is your fantasy as a child reading this stuff and seeing it put right in front of you, and you get to control it. How cool is that? Like what better pitch can we give for a fighting game like this?
Yeah, of course. And just to go back to the backgrounds, they're not too busy. That's another thing that I like. There's not like thousands of people in the background. There's not, because it obviously is not supposed to be, given the lore and the story. It's kind of thing where you would expect everyone just clear the streets.
Mm-hmm.
It's also, there's not too much going on, so it's all about the characters. The background is the background. It's not like playing Guilty Gear Strive where you like want to look at the background because it's more interesting than the foreground. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be unobtrusive but beautiful. The way, but sometimes a lot of games fail at this. They just make the backgrounds too crazy. But this, and it's not 3D, but it's not the same art style. It definitely makes you focus on the characters, and that's a good thing.
Do you have, like, what's an example of a game that does the crazy backgrounds that are too distracting?
Guilty Gear. So Guilty Gear Strive particularly.
Oh,
it's
really?
just too much. Yeah, it's just too much. And I know it's the part of that game's charm is just craziness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like of anime fighters. I often call Marvel versus Capcom 2 the tequila shot of fighting games. But I would say Guilty Gear is the tequila shot of anime fighters.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
But you see windmills, you see people talking to each other. You know, King of Fighters was probably the first one to make backgrounds sort of really interesting, and the time of day would change as the rounds progress and stuff like that. So there's a lot of games that make their backgrounds, busier or more interesting. So if you ever go down a rabbit hole, just look at the King of Fighters, how the transition from round to round, and how there's people cheering in the background, and there's all these Easter eggs and stuff. I think so. King of Fighters and maybe Guilty Gear are examples of too busy. Blaze Blue, has some really cool, crazy looking backgrounds as well, but it's not. There isn't a bunch of stuff moving in the background that distracts you or anything like that. Definitely makes the backgrounds beautiful without being like be like that extra on set that's trying to, stand out and get seen,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. I've worked with theaters before. It does.
Just die. You're supposed to die.
You know what's cool about the visuals too is like the characters are really varied. There are a lot of just normal looking people, and that's cool. But you had mentioned Hilda before. Well, you've mentioned Merkava. I don't know why I didn't jump to Merkava first. Merkava's a demon. Just a literal demon. Like I think he's just a very sentient void, right?
Yes, and that's sort of alluded to in how he speaks. He's like suffering because he's aware.
Yeah.
Whereas it sounds like the majority of them, or all of them, aren't like that. The characters are all over the shop in a good way. Even you got Wildstein that's like just massive. His design just seemingly makes no sense. Like he's huge. He's the command grab character of the series. Obviously, you've got the high school kid. Yes, got the archetypes, right?
Right.
But you've got all the archetypes. You've even got the guest characters are well selected as well.
You've got one guest. Oh, I don't know if she's a guest character, but she's basically Resident Evil Jill.
Yes, Eltonham.
Down to the point where she's got guns, and her guns have a reload mechanic.
She's from the Melty Blood universe, if I'm not mistaken. There's definitely a character that will resonate with you. Unless, of course, you just hate anime and hate fighting games, just generally. But
yes.
Yeah, I don't know. Who'd you main, by the way? It sounds like you used Ori.
That is an excellent segue into the mechanics, because not only do the characters look very different, but surprisingly, they all have these little subtle differences that make them handle differently too. Some of them even have, a lot of them actually, even have unique mechanics to them. So let's talk about the mechanics, which has a lot of depth to it. So you had asked me who I mained. Not Ori, actually. I did like using Ori. She's great. More often than not, I was playing as either Mika or Lynn, the girl with the dual sort of Tontos.
Yep.
Yeah, I like them both a lot. Both Rushdown characters. Rushdown and Shoto are always the two that I go for in new games that I'm not familiar with, unless it's like Dead or Alive or something. But I just find them to be very comfortable. I'm not super great with characters that have tons of mix-up options. Like you had mentioned Carmine. He's a great example. One of his unique abilities is and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a little shaky on a lot of this. He can sacrifice some of his health to power up his attacks, which will make like a blood puddle on the floor that he can then use as a combo extender. It is this insane like 4D chess that you can do on the battlefield with this guy.
Yeah, it gives them uniqueness. So yeah, he's definitely your sort of option select. What are they going to do next kind of character, right? I mean, I didn't play as him very much, but when I do change characters and have a muck around, it's interesting how different. And you go, oh, I get it now. I get why when I fight them they're like that, or they're doing those moves. Like take who we're talking about before, Elton with the gun, right? That just works. And what I think is really cool about it is it forces you to sort of get to know each character, regardless of whether you main them or not, because you have to watch, how much ammo does she have? What can she do? Or what stance are they in? Or, because some characters are switching between, I'm trying to blank on an example. They have different modes, right? So some are just classic characters with a super meter, like Akatsuki. He doesn't have Inbirth powers. He's just got a super meter and he charges his gauntlet things. Yeah. And he shoots fireballs. He's a Shoto. Or you've got puppet characters too. That's another thing.
Oh, right.
Seth's a puppet character. He's got like a giant lizard.
Yeah, the Komodo dragon, yeah.
Yeah, so that's another gimmick that you see in other fighting games that they've put in here. They've got a charge character, Vatista. I've used her quite a lot.
You've got some zoner characters as well. I don't know if zoner's the right word, but Hilda has a lot of attacks that, you expect. Something that we're going to talk about in a moment is how a lot of these combos and different directional attacks will behave pretty similarly across the cast. But with Hilda, she's a great example of, down C is not going to launch somebody. It's going to do this ranged attack that will not hit them if you're up close. But she has a lot of neat stuff in her kit that lets you bounce the opponent across the stage and then pull them back to you with these sort of zoned attacks.
Yes, and so there are zoners, a lot of zoners in this game, and what's interesting is that this game is rewarding pressure quite a lot. So a lot of the characters are rush down, but the way that you can use a zoner to still continually pressure your opponent, so you can try to think of the grid gauge, is it? I think it's called the grid gauge.
It is the grid gauge. Before we get there, though, I want to go through just the sort of onboarding of what this fighting system is. The grid gauge is what keeps people in this game. Like, that is what makes Under Night really unique. And no other game that I've played anyway has something like that. It is a neat thing. But the actual onboarding, like when you jump into training, do the tutorial, do the character combo trials, you're going to see that, one, it's very familiar to a lot of other games that you may have played. And two, it is very welcoming. You and I have both talked a lot today about all of the cool, unique mechanics and the skill ceiling, but we've also both said that it's very inviting and has a low barrier to entry. And you see that immediately upon starting. So what I have written here, and saying stuff like this in front of a fighting game aficionado always makes me a little shaky, but if you're going to distill fighting games into categories, you can roughly say that there are like three. You've got your 3-button fighters. That's your Virtua Fighter, for example. You've got your 6 buttons, Street Fighter, Darkstalkers, Skullgirls, stuff like that. And then you've got 4-button fighters. Most of Arc System Works is going to be 4-button. Melty Blood, Under Night, Dragon Ball Fighters, Granblue. Those are all 4-button. All that means is that you've got A, B, C, and D inputs. A, B, C are going to be attacks, light, medium, heavy. D, depending on the game, is going to do different stuff.
D is a Joker card.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It can be a block. It can be a special move. It can be how you do your super, which in this game, it's pretty much all of those things. So
yeah. But what's cool about this, though, is like, yes, if you played Granblue Rising, you're going to be a little familiar with the combo system, or at least the button system on how to do these attacks. Same with Melty Blood. The way it works is you can do what's called an auto combo. I don't remember exactly what this game calls it. Each game calls it something a little different, but it's basically, it's basically a light attack. It's basically a super meter. They're all the same thing. But if you just press A over and over again, you're going to do a combo. It's not like Street Fighter or Tekken where you need to know the timing and the buttons down to the second. Here, it gives you some wiggle room. It gives you some grace. To that end as well, when you start the combo trials with each character, like let's say you just want to get in there and see if Atsuki or whoever is to your liking. You just start in there. It's going to start you on a combo trial beginning with, I don't know, let's say down A. Every combo is going to start with down A. What you'll find is two things, and I'm actually really interested to hear what you think about this, Demon. One, you're going to find that a lot of the characters can do the same thing. If your combo, here's one that I found with basically every single character in this game. Down A, into down B, into standing C, into down C. Everybody can do that, and it's going to be a combo for everybody. And that leads into the second thing that I think is much more interesting. This, while on its face seems kind of boring, what it does, I think, is it promotes more exploration and experimentation. Like if a new player like me can come in and do that combo on every character, that's telling me that I have the capability to do combos. And now I realize, oh, wait, I can actually do down A and then standing B and then ducking B. I can actually do that too. And then you start to learn that almost everything can combo into everything else. And it gets you into that mindset of what makes fighting games so great is that you can find this expression in the movements and in the mechanics, and you start to experiment with that because Arc System Works does such a good job of letting new players get that rush. You don't have to spend 20 minutes trying to perfect one string in Tekken or in Street Fighter. You don't necessarily have to do that. You might not get the optimal combo, but you're still going to get like a 6, 7, 10 hitter, and that still feels good. You're not getting the 40 hitter from MVC2, but it's still something. I don't know. And in that way, I think these games do beginner friendly content better than anything else. Casual's opinion.
Yeah, and when I said earlier, I like variety in games. I like it when it's not all the same and all that sort of thing. And then people are probably going, yeah, but if that's true, why do you like this game? Well, it's because they give you a basic tool set for everyone, but it's only the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. But like you said, it makes you don't feel so powerless when you pick up a new character. Because like you said, you can auto combo. Is the auto combo the be all and end all? No, it's not. It's actually not. There are far better ways to combo in this game. The auto combo just makes it gets you started and gets you playing the game and having fun straight away. That helps the new player. It helps you change characters. It helps give everyone a basic tool set that they can all use, but it is only, say, 10% of the game. The rest of it is expression, using your imagination. Because like you said, you can go from the ground to the sky to the, back to standing, back to crouching, you can combo in and out of almost everything. Also, if you have your full super meter, you can auto combo, then do your super at the end. Mm-hmm. There's punish options for new players immediately. And it also doesn't take away from the high skill ceiling of the game where those combos don't win you matches necessarily at the high level. In fact, right. You do need to go on and learn other things and other combos. And the meters are super important in this game. Understanding how they work is probably the biggest difference between a low skill and a high skill player. I agree with you. They've given you like a standard tool set. They said, look, there's a lot more to this game, but this will be common with every character and you can go ahead and use it. It doesn't matter if they're a zoner, it doesn't matter if they're a command grab character, it doesn't matter if they're a rush down. It doesn't matter. This set of moves will work with everyone and it'll get you playing the game and not feel like you just, even though auto combos are kind of mashy, mm-hmm. You don't feel like you're mashing with this game.
No, it's so funny because I don't remember if I delisted this. There are a couple of episodes over the years I've delisted just for various reasons. But you and I have talked before with friend of the show, Mikey Tabletop, who will be coming on the next episode for Skullgirls. But we all talked about Dragon Ball Z Fighters. And I remember at the time saying like, yeah, it promotes mashing. I don't like it. And I couldn't disagree more with myself in the past now. And it's for me, I was thinking of this too, Demon. It's the same thing that I've come around with on modern controls with Street Fighter. Now, do I use modern controls? No, I do not. I do not like them. I prefer to learn the inputs. I'm a sicko that says like, oh yeah, 2, 3, 6. I know what that means because I'm a freak. I'm a pervert. But somebody said something to me. Well, not to me. They just said it online once, and it kind of just broke my foundation of modern controls. They said if you can't beat somebody that's using modern controls, it means you didn't have the game sense to win and you didn't deserve to win. And all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, like they're right. They're so right. So like if somebody beats you by button mashing combos in an Arc Sysworks game, whether it's Dragon Ball or Grand Blue or whatever, all that's saying, it's the same philosophy behind spamming in Smash or Mortal Kombat. If you are falling for the spamming over and over again, that's just telling the opponent that it works and you're not adapting. You didn't deserve to win.
Yeah, exactly.
And I keep throwing around that charged word deserve. I don't mean it to come off like that. Like at the end of the day, I think you and I would agree that fighting games are about being better than yourself than you were yesterday or the last match.
Correct.
It's not about like deserving to beat the opponent, but like that's ultimately what I mean is like, modern controls are fine. Spamming is fine. It's just, your opponent's got to adapt. You've got to adapt.
Well, if you've got that compare yourself to others mindset, you'll never like fighting games because you'll get humbled so often. And yeah, it's fine to compare yourself to someone to say, oh, I want to be as good as them or I want to be like them or whatever. But if you pick up a fighting game, first time you've ever played it, and you compare yourself to someone who's played it for a year, and you can't be okay with losing to them. I mean, you've got to be okay with losing in fighting. And like you say, only comparing to how good you were the day before. All right, I played rank, I won one game, out of, say, 10. Then the next day I won 2. Instead of feeling good about that, some people don't. And, you just need to accept that you're improving, and eventually your path will catch up or overtake other people's, or it won't.
Mm-hmm.
And you've just got to enjoy mastering the game for its own sake to really enjoy it. But that's just my opinion. And I think the modern controls thing, they've given you enough tools, say in Street Fighter 6 is a good example, where if you don't play modern controls and you master the inputs, you will have an edge over modern controls every time.
Yeah.
So you do more damage, you've got bigger moveset. The advantage is there if you want to take it. If you don't, that's on you. But this game also gives you defensive mechanics. It might give you auto combo, but it's one of the easiest games for blocking because you don't have to hold block the whole time. You just have to block when the initial attack hits, and it will auto block after that. So it hasn't just given people tools to spam attacks. It's given tools for defense as well. It's definitely trying to strike a balance, even though it is a very aggressive, very rush-down based fighting game.
Oh, yeah. So you had mentioned the grid system twice and the rush downs. Before that, I just want to say, beautifully said, bravo. I couldn't agree more about, you can't, if you only compare yourself to others, you're going to have a terrible time. It's the same thing with like sports and music of any kind, right? If you're always comparing yourself to those that are better than you, rather than looking to them for inspiration, you're going to hate your life and hate the hobby eventually. Same thing here. I just wanted to call that out. Beautiful.
Yeah, and obviously take the converse if you compared yourself to people that were worse. Like that's equally unhealthy, and no one one's really doing that as much, right? Because you don't gain anything. It's that sort of negativity bias of the human brain, really, isn't it? You're not going, well, yeah, this guy kicked my ass, but I beat 2 really good players. Like I was saying, you don't remember the 2 the way you remember the 8 losses. You just don't.
Right.
It's not how people work. But anyway, sorry to interrupt. Go on.
No, you're fine. I think that could be a whole episode in and of itself, and it's an important conversation. In some ways, it's the most important one to have about any kind of competitive game or task.
Yes.
But you had mentioned the grid meter twice, and I wanted to talk about the basics, but the grid meter is what keeps people coming back to Undernight. It is going to sound insane to describe it, but what it is there's 2 components of it. On the bottom of the screen, on each player side, there are 6 kind of parallelograms, squares, 4-sided objects. And behind them is a sort of timer, like a circular timer. It's, going around clockwise. Once it goes from 12 to 12, all around the circle, that's 1 cycle. For now, we'll just call it a cycle. At the end of that cycle, somebody is going to win the tug of war. The entire time the battle is going, these squares are filling up and depleting. The way you fill them up, and this is really important to what you were saying about rushdowns, the way you fill up your squares is by moving forward and by attacking. Your squares will deplete if you move backwards or if you get
blocked
hit
as well,
or if you get blocked.
Yeah.
Right. Your squares will also increase if you tech a throw. But all of this promotes offense. Well, it promotes these 2 things in this order. I think it promotes quick and intentional action. That is to say, you can't just wait. And it promotes offense. This isn't a game that you can play like Virtua Fighter, where you kind of turtle, or you're playing really defensively, like you're footsying all over the place, just waiting for the perfect poke. You can't do that. Like Undernight wants you to go. And you're going to learn quick enough. You're going to learn the patterns on what's safe and what's going to get you punished. But you are really rewarded for being aggressive, because if you win that tug of war after that 1 cycle, what they call the Vorpal cycle, you spend the whole next cycle having much more power. You're going to be stronger, and you can chain things together. What is it called in Strive where they do that burst? You could do that here if you get the Vorpal.
Yeah, it is called a burst. I'm pretty sure, but Veil Off, it's called here, a Veil in Undernight. But that 10%, you get a buff for winning that tug of war. In the Vorpal state, you get 10%. If you do Veil Off as well, you get another 10%. So you can do 20% extra damage than your opponent if you play your cards right. Winning that battle is very important, at the high level anyway. I mean, you're just playing against AI, it's not. But Yeah, it rewards. I wouldn't say it rewards aggression necessarily. I would say it rewards pressure, because you can apply pressure with zoning as well, and that's important. And even the charge characters, because charge characters are turtling characters. This game is anti-turtling, but you can still attack with the charge character, because what they did that was very clever is they have hold up to charge moves as well, not just hold down. And you go, well, what does that do? It means you can jump in, and you can do special moves from a jump. And lots of dive kicks and things like that with Vatista, right? She's a charge character. So even charge characters can be turned into rushdown characters in this game, which is really cool idea and well implemented. I really didn't find any character that felt disadvantaged by the grid gauge. I really didn't.
No, not at all. And you are right. If you're a new player just wanting to get into this, you could basically ignore that. Like, if you're just jumping in to play against AI to learn a character, to learn the system, you don't even have to pay attention to it. But it does add that really interesting wrinkle. Like, no other game has something like this, and it's a kind of what do you call it? It's like a game within a game almost. Like you're playing two different things. Yeah,
you're winning a battle in a war.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, man.
You can have an actual, like, even if you don't have a life lead, you can still come back if you win. You just win one of those. Just win one. It's 17-second cycle or something. Not 17 seconds. Is it 9 seconds or something like that? It's quite short.
Yeah. So, it's short enough that if you lose, you're not like, the whole battle isn't immediately over.
No, and it will reset. So like you got your next chance. Again, 9 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you can just win them, it's just starting your comeback, right? So it's really cool that they've it's quite intimidating at first if you try to understand it straight away, because there's other gauges and super meters and stuff as well. There's EX attacks, it's all the stuff. But the best way to play it initially is to not think about it at all, because that will take care of itself. If you play with pressure and play well, the grid gauge usually will reward you anyway. So it's just the nature of the game.
You know what, too? You had mentioned the jumping in with the dive kicks and stuff. I mentioned up at the top that I'm going to link...
the D button as well. That's important to bring up. The D button is a jumping in button for the closing space, which is a very good addition.
So in that YouTube video, I'm going to link with Nihongo Gamer translating that Uni player named Kyo's instructions. One thing that he emphasizes, Kyo does, is that jumping in this game isn't super advantageous, but he instead recommends using that assault button. So the D in this game, you would call it the Joker card. It's the assault button here. And basically what it does is, it also lets you charge your grid gauge, to be fair, but assault lets you sort of do a quick jump forward, and it's not super high, but it pushes you forward faster than you'd be able to dash. And you want to talk about pressure, which, by the way, that's totally correct. It's a much better phrase than rewarding offensiveness, rewarding pressure. That is a great pressure tool, because you are just moving toward the enemy real quickly, and it's not a high jump. You're going to be back on the ground again real quick, but that is such an easy thing to combo out of. And it's, I don't know, would you call it a high stakes or low stakes sort of move? High risk, low risk?
Well, what's good about it is it's kind of like a dash. I wouldn't say, I think it's not high risk. I think it's sort of just a moderate risk, like walking forward, and that's what makes it good. Like, you can be punished from it, but you also, if you know what you're doing, you're not going to be punished from it. So you're fairly safe depending on what move you do when you do the launch. But the launch function's more like a really big dash, but you can also do air moves out of it if you want to. I wouldn't say it's like a full air move, but it's kind of that halfway in between where you can do an air move from it, or you can just use it to close space. It's a really good addition in this game. I haven't seen any other fighting game do it, because it's kind of like a jump button, right? And jump buttons in fighting games are not really a thing. So you could say Virtual Fighter maybe, because you can press block and then up and jump, but it's very much part of the gameplay in a really fundamental way. I use it a lot, so I don't really know about the super high competitive meta. I have watched a couple of Under Night Inbirth tournaments, but like I think it's a fantastic thing. It really makes you feel like you're not safe from anywhere, any part of the screen, and that makes you play more. Like I said, aggression, yes, but it makes you it makes you more aware of what you're doing because you can't just jump to the other side of the screen and go, I'm safe.
Right.
You're not safe. You know what I mean? Especially against Hilda.
Oh, gosh, yeah. That's something that beginners like myself tend to do a lot. If you're getting pressured, the safe space is moving all the way back to that corner because then there's distance and you have time to think. But rewarding pressure is such an excellent way to put it. If you try to do that, like you said, you're never really safe because movement options here, you can get across the screen quick, but also you are desensitized from doing that because then you lose grid. And if you lose too much grid, you're going to lose the tug of war and then you're at a disadvantage for 9 seconds or however long. It's such a unique system. And I'm just kind of surprised and shocked at how this game isn't more popular. Like even in the FGC, this is a pretty niche thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what has sort of like led to it kind of being snubbed quite a lot. Like, and when you talk to people about it, they're always sort of like, yeah, it's a really good game. I'm like, well, like you said, well, why isn't it getting more love then? I'm not really sure, if I'm being honest. Is it because it's more popular in Japan? Because it's not even like in Japan, it's super dominant either. I can't really explain fully why it's not more popular than it is and why, say, Grand Blue is more popular or some of those are more popular. Because I would say I prefer this by quite a wide margin to some of those other anime fighters. Even to Blaze Blue, which is, I do like more than this, but only just,
Yeah. Well, I do wonder if Blaze Blue gets a bit of a nod in terms of popularity because it's kind of the other side of the coin of Guilty Gear, right? Like those two are pretty hard intertwined.
Yeah. I mean, one of the creators is obviously from, Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue. But yeah, I mean, you look at, say, Guilty Gear versus Blaze Blue, that on the surface they appear very similar, but they're not. I feel like Blaze Blue is more of each character has that special button that does something different, and it's got a lot more neutral, if that makes sense. There's probably someone out there going, no, there's neutral in Guilty Gear and it's got the, I don't know. Like, is it because it wasn't the first? Is it because no one talks about it? Is it because of its dumb name? Is it, what is it? Because it's definitely not the gameplay and the sound and the visuals and stuff.
I'm not sure either. And it makes me think, what it also makes me think of is every time I see Persona 4 Ultimax mentioned online, everybody is like, oh yeah, that's low-key one of the best anime fighters. And it's like, okay, well, nobody plays it though,
Yeah, exactly. Like, is it though? Yeah. There is a quality to quantity at times, right? So it's a bit like the King of Fighters thing when people are like, oh, King of Fighters is better than Street Fighter. I'm like, well, is it though? Because they've both been around a long time and Street Fighter's still more popular.
Yeah.
And it's not because people don't know about King of Fighters or anything like that, or Fatal Fury, there's SNK games. It could just be because Capcom make better fighting games too. Like, that's a possibility. I'm not saying it's what it is, but the person who worked on the first Street Fighter is the person who created Fatal Fury. So, like, it's not like, it could just be that's underappreciated and it's that simple.
Yeah. It could just be luck of the draw. In another timeline, it might be on the main stage every year. Just like in another timeline, King of Fighters could be the Street Fighter. That's part of it. And that's part of the reason, too, why I wanted to do like a month just devoted to, well, I say devoted like I'm doing more than 3, but just dedicated to a couple fighting games is because I don't know about you, man. You probably have a better vocabulary than I do on this, but if you ask me to tell you the difference between like a Street Fighter, or let me say the same generation of Street Fighter, King of Fighters, and like even Fatal Fury, I'm going to struggle. Like, I can tell they're different in the hands, and especially with Fatal Fury, they've got, the, what do you call it? The distance mechanic, like foreground, background kind of deal. Like, I understand.
Oh, Fatal Fury. Yeah.
That's just a different thing. But like King of Fighters and Street Fighter, they play very similar in terms of, their movesets and what you're doing. And it's like, or, just as good of an example, Blaze Blue and Guilty Gears, some of the older ones. It's like, I don't have the vocabulary to say how they're different, but I can feel it. I know they're different. So that's why I'm hoping to talk to folks like you and kind of get better at that.
Yeah, I think there are definite differences. Like, are they similar? Yes, because they're basically, one's a clone of the other one, right? But there are things I notice in, say, King of Fighters where, inputs are different, right? So you can preload your input. You can hold it and let go. Like it's like negative edge type stuff. I mean, that's a small difference. So when you try to do, say, a Shoryuken, if you do 2/4 circles, it will still work. Stuff like that doesn't work necessarily with a Capcom game. So it can feel a little bit sloppy to some people. But then the inputs can be more complicated in KOF. Or the jump. Strong attacks. Sometimes you can land a strong attack and then you're not safe. That's a thing in King of Fighters games. Or you have to hit on the front of the character, not the top, if there's a difference. Like, that's another thing in King of Fighters games. So it just makes it feel a little different. And that can be something so subtle no one can talk about or articulate it, but subtle enough, but noticeable enough that they go, I don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens with King of Fighters, to be honest. Like, I love King of Fighters. 13's one of the best 2D fighters ever made. Probably you could argue it's the best. But if people get that Street Fighter game and they start Street Fighter 2, they start playing it, they get used to it. That's now the template.
Right.
When you start adding background, foreground, which died off in the end because, it's kind of unnecessarily complicating the game and people just didn't receive it well. But if you take those other subtle things, like if you'd have taken Street Fighter and not, like Street Fighter accidentally introduced like special cancels. If you'd have never had that and then King of Fighters did that, we might be having a different conversation entirely. So there's all these tiny little differences in between these two franchises that on the face of it look similar, like Guilty Gear and Blaze Blue. I like Blaze Blue, but I'm not elite at either one of like Blaze Blue or Guilty Gear. It's not my main thing I play.
Sure.
But those people who do would definitely be able to explain why when you play Guilty Gear, why when you play Blaze Blue, it's just not the same. I just don't. It's a bit like Dead or Alive and, say, Virtua Fighter. They're very similar. But they are very similar, literally very similar. People worked on one, worked on the other, that. But what is it that makes it different? Just one subtle thing to hold, right?
Well, I could think of two things that makes it different.
Oh, yes, yeah, and that other thing that makes it different.
Well, in all seriousness, though, I absolutely love Dead or Alive 5 is one of my favorite fighting games ever.
Yeah, it's
great.
But
I'm thinking back to, and like I've developed a bit of a more refined way of talking about this because as you said that, I remembered one of the first things that I said when I was talking to somebody about having, just started Dead or Alive 5. They were like, "Oh yeah, well, like I've only heard about the boobs. Like what's it about?" I was like, "Well, that's part of it, but also it's a really good game. Like just think Virtua Fighter, but more evolved." And I think back to that now, and I'm like, "Oh Jesus Christ!" Like what?
The more
That's
evolved.
so,
oh God.
Yeah, that's not it, man.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter is a prime example. 3 buttons, complicated. Right? It doesn't mean simple. Having 6 buttons doesn't make your game more complex, right? It really doesn't. I don't really have much else to say about it. I wish it was more popular. Like I wish it did have a bigger following, especially, because it's so fun. But it could just be a victim of there's other games.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Skullgirls, you're doing an episode on Skullgirls. That game, when it came out, it was, it's an indie game. It's a fantastic, I love that game. Why isn't that more popular now? Why isn't there a sequel, Sometimes the marketing or the attach or whatever is a bit more to it than just the quality of the product,
Yeah.
What could happen is some cult movie could come out where someone's playing it in the background or something, and that could bump it. Anything like that could happen.
Yeah. Yeah. New season of Stranger Things has Skullgirls playing in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Get on it, something like that. Yeah. You know what I mean. Like obviously that's a game based in the show based in the past, but sometimes it is literal just luck or coincidence. The good product, yes, but then the right things all align and then bam, it's a hit.
I think that's well said, man. I know you said that you don't have a lot more to say, but I want just one more thing out of you. I'm going to be asking each of the fighting game guests this at the end of the episodes as well. If you could sum this up in 1-2 sentences, why should folks give fighting games a chance? If they've never played fighting games, they think it's not for them, whether it's Under Night or something else, why should they give fighting games a chance?
They reward effort. They don't rely on leveling or buying things, or aside from the game itself and maybe some DLC characters. That's a different conversation. But you get reward for effort, and it's the ultimate you versus someone else, whether it's an AI or a CPU character, whatever, or it's a literal other person. I feel like no other game has that me versus you feel the way a fighting game does. You know, if you got the right level of competitive and, you know, sort of, you don't take losing too personally, you know, I just feel like people are scared of the nicheness of it, the inputs, the barrier to entry, but that barrier isn't that hard to bring down. So, sorry, I know I've gone way more than 2 sentences, but just to sum it up again, reward for effort, easier than you think.
Yeah, dude, that is well said. Yep. Do not apologize for going over. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for joining me today, man. It's great to talk to you, to somebody that really knows this stuff. I'm looking forward to doing more of this. I'm looking forward to playing more of Under Night 1 and 2. It's going to be a lot of fun. And listeners, of course, thank you for sticking around. If you have enjoyed this month of fighting games in February, you can find more fighting game content over at Command List. That, again, that's command with a K, which is a podcast Demon does with his brother Jim. And I would like to give you a second or a minute or two to talk a little bit about what you do over at Command List and where folks can find you. And if you have a good first episode that you'd like to recommend, by all means do that too.
Yeah, so over at Command List, we mostly talk about fighting games, the occasional beat 'em up, and every now and then we just do a topical episode. It's me and Jim most of the time, and sometimes we get guests like yourself. And I also have a YouTube channel where we have a YouTube command. I mostly run the YouTube channel, Command List, so you can see me play games up there and do short episodes, and there's a lot of funny shorts I've started making, so I'd really appreciate if people check that out too. But yeah, our first episode to start with, top 5 characters we'd like to have a beer with. That's a really funny one. That's a lot of fun, that one. It sets a tone for what our podcast really is. I'm trying to think of another recent good one. Oh, you put me on the spot. They're all good, Rick. Everyone should listen to all of them.
I agree. Everyone should listen to everything.
Yes. And I've done some pretty obscure games too. Fighter's Destiny on the N64 with Richard was crazy. We did a Mortal Kombat book episode. Street Fighter the movie, the game with Chris Copley. So yeah, I mean, a best episode? Oh, I don't know. I think we answered this question in the Q&A, and I'm just blanking on it, but the Q&A episode we did, but yeah. So anyway, there's no real bad place to start, I don't think, except that the really, really early episodes where the audio quality is not that good. But yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. You can find a link to Command List and their stuff in the episode description, and you should check it out. It's good stuff. They really, really know their fighting games inside and out. If you check out the episode description, you also find our stuff too. You can connect with us on Blue Sky and Instagram. You can join our free Discord, which is free. You can check out the Patreon if you feel so inclined. Free stuff is in there now too. I've recently added that. That's about all for today. Thank you again to Demon for joining me. Thank you, listeners, for sticking around. And this has been a real blast. Really had a good time. So until next time with Skullgirls, I'm signing off for today. I am Rick. I'm your host. See you next time. Take care.